Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This one is going to be a little video how I made a new doll of mine. It's called a doll. So it's a little bit smaller than what I normally do, but kind of looks like a fox, but it's actually called a doll. So polymer clay head and feet, faux fur body. It's got a ball and socket armature inside, so it is posable. You can pose it in different ways. Little look at the face. So I've applied the faux fur to the face. A little look, got some little whiskers and stuff on there too. The little black tail at the end. It's a little doll. So if you want to know how I made him, then keep watching. It also is available in my shop, creaturesandnat.com. I have payment plans available as well to make it a little bit easier and a bit more accessible to people. So just shoot me a message if you're interested in how they work. Otherwise, if you want to know how I made him, then just keep watching. Okay, so I'm starting off by painting up some glass eyes. I use cabochons for these ones, so they've got flat backs. And I basically use just some acrylic paint to paint in the eyes. These are brown, so they're quite dark and you can't really see too much detail, but the glass does add that little bit of extra realism. Then I'm going to be making the head, so I'm using an aluminium core, foil core, and that basically acts as like a skull. And then I'm covering in some Sculpey Original, so it's the softer Sculpey, and I just like working with softer Sculpey. I sort of am a fast sculptor, so I like to push the clay around a little bit as opposed to working with harder Sculpey like Sculpey Firm or Super Sculpey. And I basically just cover that ball with a layer of the Sculpey first, and then I can start working on some of the details, so sort of sketching out where I want the nose to go, where I want the eyes, the mouth to go, and then I can start adding the details in. And I use a variety of different type of tools to add the details. So I'm using a little ball tool here to create the nostrils in the nose, and a pins sort of tool to create the little divots around the side of it. I also use it to create fur textures and just a whole lot of different textures and tools. And I'm just working on the lower jaw here, so I'm going to get that correct before I start working on any other dimensions of the head. Once that's done, I can start working on the eyes. So I've created a little sort of eye well, or like an eye socket that I can put in the glass cabochons, and it sort of pushes them up a little bit further so they're not so flat against the head, and I can sort of maneuver it around to where I want the eyes to sit. Once I'm happy with that, I look at it at all directions and make sure that everything is symmetrical. I can start working on the lids, so I use a piece of rolled out clay that's sort of like roll it out like a worm, and then I can round it over the cabochon, making some eyelids, and just add a little bit of detailing and flatten it out a little bit. Then I can start working on the brows, just building that up a little bit more to create the brow line. And then I can start building up all of the areas that need to be built up a bit. So it's usually the muzzle area, the top side of the head, and around the sides of the head, they need to be built up a bit. So once I've built all that up, I just start adding in some of the detailing that I need to add. So just smoothing out the eyes, creating a gaze or a look that I like by just playing around with those eyelids that I've put on and adding some fur texture before I finally bake it. Alright, so once I've added the ears and added the little bit of textures that I wanted, I can start put this in the oven to ready to bake and start working on the paws. So I've sculpted all 4 paws of this one. I'm getting really good at sculpting them pretty quickly. I just roll out basically 5 bits of clay into a ball, obviously one bigger size for the actual paw and 4 smaller bits for the toes, and I can sort of roughly get this done in about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes quicker. And a fun little fact is on the Dhole paws, the middle 2 paw pads actually stuck together, so they're not like regular wolf or fox paws. They've got 2 little stuck paw pads, and then the ones on the side are loose. So once it has been baked, I can start painting all the areas. First off, I'm painting around the eyes, the nose and the mouth in a little bit of black, and I have also added the ball and socket armature to the pieces, so they're dry and ready to be put together once I've been painted. And yeah, I'm using water-based acrylic paint for this one, nothing too fancy, and you don't have to be too careful with it, too neat with your painting, because I'm going to be covering in faux fur anyway. For the armature, I'm using a 1/8 scale armature, so this is my smallest size, and I'm using my tool to pop everything together. I've measured out all the pieces to begin with, and making sure it's all symmetrical and not lopsided. And I can pop all the pieces together, and then I can start working on the body. So this is a bit of a smaller doll, so that's why I'm using the smaller size. I normally use the 1/4 size or this size, which is the medium size. So once I've put it all together, I can start wrapping it in pipe cleaners, and this basically acts as like a catch. So when you're working with the polyfill, I normally needle felt my bodies really roughly, so I get a basic shape, muscle form, and I use polyfill for this, so it just gives it something to stick to, because it's quite hard for it to get it wrapped around the plastic armature because it's quite slippery, so the pipe cleaners just help it stay in place. And once I'm happy with the way the needle felting is looking and it's all symmetrical, I can start working on the faux fur. So for the underbelly, I am using a white bit of faux fur, and for the outside, I'm going to be using like this nice rust color. And I'm going to be going for the doll that has a longer coat rather than their shorter summer coat, just because I like the fluffy look a little bit better. So I have pinned all of the 2 pieces of torso faux fur together, and I can start sewing it all up. So I'm using a ladder stitch to sew these two pieces together, making sure that I'm still contouring to the body shape. And I'm using a good quality thread for this one, because you need to put a little bit of tension on that thread, and if you've got a cheap thread, it tends to snap. Once the torso piece is done, I can start working on the leg pieces. So I went for the colouring of a white lower sort of paw section, and halfway up the leg it sort of moves into that rust colour. Once everything has been sewn up, I can start gluing all of the pieces together. So I use a tacky fabric glue to glue the faux fur to the polymer clay. It adheres pretty well. I usually leave it to dry overnight just to make sure it's nice and secure. Once that's done, I give it a little bit of a shave and then start adding some faux fur to the head. There's always a little bit of cleanup once I've added this faux fur to make sure all the features pop back out, and a little bit of detailing work with some paints, just to create that a bit more realism in the eyes and stuff, because it sort of tends to get covered. That's why I only sort of do a preliminary paint work at the start, because I'm going to go over it again once the doll has been all put together. Going over the nose again with that acrylic paint as well, just to make it come out and stand out a little bit. And I'm going to be adding a little bit of faux whiskers onto the front just to make it a little bit more realistic as well. So that's pretty much it for this one. It's a quick little doll. It's a smaller one, so it is available in my shop, creaturesandthat.com. Payment plans are welcome for any of my dolls that you see. Just shoot me a message, I can let you know how they work. You can find me on Patreon if you want a little bit more, and discounts as well. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok at creaturesandthat, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!